Psalms for a restless soul, a calm, faithful journey through 20 Psalms that carries the tired soul into the rest found in God's protection, mercy, and nearness. The Psalms have been carrying tired souls for thousands of years. They were written from inside weariness, from inside fear, and they all arrive, eventually, at the same resting place, a soul settled in God. This narration will move through 20 of them, gently, one scene at a time, until the soul has found where it belongs. Father, the one resting here has carried more than words can hold today, and we bring all of it quietly to you now. Let the Psalms speak into every still corner of this soul, and let your presence become the resting place that is found as the night deepens around us. We trust what we cannot carry into your hands, and we are still before you. Leave a prayer request in the comments. We pray over every single one. The room has grown very still. The sounds of the day have thinned down to almost nothing. Somewhere in the space around the body, a low fire is burning, steady and unhurried, casting warmth into the room the way faithful and good things do, without asking for anything back. The warmth simply fills the stillness, gently, completely, without making a sound. The body is lying down now, and there is something significant in that act, the body going horizontal, the weight being distributed across the surface underneath, the spine releasing what it has been holding upright all day. It is the body's way of saying something the soul sometimes takes longer to say. I am done holding this alone for now. Something else can carry the weight of watching for a while. I am willing to be still. The Psalms were written for exactly this moment, not the moment after everything is resolved, not the moment when the questions have found their answers and the concerns have arranged themselves into certainty. This moment, the one where the body has gone still and the mind is still moving and the soul is looking for somewhere to set down what it has been holding. The Psalms know this place. Every writer who contributed to them knew it personally. They did not write around it. They wrote from inside it. And the first thing they offer is a place, a resting place, the place the soul was made for. Not a resolution, not an explanation, a place. In peace, I will lie down and sleep, for God alone makes this dwelling safe. Those words come from Psalm 4, a quiet evening song of a soul that had learned, through many long nights and many difficult days, that the act of lying down was itself an act of trust. The body going horizontal was the soul's way of saying something real. I believe that someone else is watching. I believe that the night does not require my vigilance. I believe that God makes this place safe enough that I can close my eyes inside it, and the closing will not cost me anything. The one resting here right now is saying the same thing, not with words, with the body, with the stillness, with the choice to lie down and receive what the night offers when the soul stops competing with it. The act of resting is the act of trust. They are the same movement. There is a line in Psalm 62 that is simple enough to pass over quickly and deep enough to hold the soul through a long night. My soul finds rest in God alone. The word alone is the precision of the line. The rest the soul is looking for cannot be found in God, combined with favorable circumstances. The rest is not found in God plus certainty about tomorrow. is found in God alone, just in God. The alone is both the boundary and the gift. It means the rest does not depend on anything outside of God, which means it is available right now, in this moment, regardless of what the day brought, regardless of what is still unresolved, regardless of what the mind is still working on in the background. The soul does not need to fix anything before the rest is available. It does not need to arrive at a conclusion or arrange anything into a satisfying order. The rest is found in God, who is already here, already present, already surrounding this moment with the same faithfulness that has surrounded every moment before it. My soul finds rest in God alone. The Psalms were written by people who understood weariness from the inside. They were not people who had found a way around difficulty. They were people who had walked straight through it and who found on the other side of the walking, or sometimes in the very middle of it, something solid and dependable and utterly faithful. They found God, and they wrote what they found, not in abstract language or theoretical categories, in images, in scenes, the kind of description that comes from lived experience rather than from study alone, in the language of people who had been to the edge of what they could carry and had found that God was already there, already present, already holding what the hands could no longer hold. And one of the most consistent images they reached for across the whole of the Psalms was the image of a shepherd. Psalm 23 begins with a claim that is simple enough to pass by quickly and deep enough to hold a soul for a lifetime. The Lord is my shepherd. A shepherd is not simply a person who cares about sheep. A shepherd is responsible for sheep. The shepherd knows where the clean water is. The shepherd knows where the grass grows green and thick and where it has gone dry and thin. The shepherd knows the terrain, the gentle paths, the steep places, the valleys that must be crossed to reach the open ground on the other side. And all of that knowledge, the shepherd uses it entirely in service of the one following behind. The sheep does not navigate. The sheep does not plan the route or research the terrain or determine the safest path through the uncertain places. The sheep follows the one who already knows all of those things and has already accounted for them. And tonight, following simply means being still. The place the shepherd leads toward has still water. Still water is a deliberate and specific detail. Sheep will not drink from rushing water. They need stillness. They need the kind of place where the water is not competing with itself, not pushing and crowding and demanding attention. They need the quiet water, the water that simply sits in its place, patient and available, ready to be received without effort or resistance. So the shepherd does not lead toward any water. The shepherd leads toward the right water, the still water, the water that allows the soul to lean in and drink without strain, without the current pushing back, without anything competing with the simple act of receiving. He leads the tired soul to waters that are quiet, and what was wearing thin begins slowly to be restored. Restoration in the Psalms is not loud. It does not announce itself with energy or celebration or any sudden shift that the soul would immediately recognize and name. It arrives the way genuine rest arrives, gradually, without the person managing the process, in the quiet space that follows the setting down of what has been carried. The shepherd restores the soul. The work of restoration sits entirely on the shepherd's side of the exchange, and the soul's posture in response is simply receiving, open, available, following the shepherd to the still water and staying there. What was worn begins to feel less thin. What was depleted begins to feel slowly that something is being returned to it, the way a long, slow drink of water reaches places that had been dry without the dryness even being fully noticed until the drink began. Restoration is quiet. It happens in the following, and the soul resting here is already in the posture of receiving it, and the shepherd leads on paths that are right for the soul to travel. The soul following does not need to know the complete map. The shepherd knows it. He has already walked this path, not in theory, but in the knowledge of someone who has been here and has brought others through safely. He knows the turns ahead and the places where the ground firms up and the places where it softens and requires more careful stepping. There is something the soul finds when it releases the need to know the whole path, a specific loosening, a quieting of something that had been held tense. The moment the soul stops demanding to see around the next bend and simply follows the one who has already been around it, something fundamental changes in how the soul inhabits its own moment, even in the valley, even in the places where the light falls thin and the path ahead is not clearly visible, and the terrain on either side feels uncertain. Even there, the shepherd does not leave. He does not hesitate at the entrance to the valley. He walks in first. He is already further along, already knowing what opens at the far end, already keeping watch from the position of someone who has walked this particular valley before and who has brought many others through it safely. And the rod and the staff the shepherd carries, they are not threats. They are the tools of a skilled shepherd who knows exactly what he is doing in this specific terrain. The rod to protect, the staff to guide, and the soul that sees those tools and understands them finds, in the middle of the dark place, something it did not expect to find: comfort. The presence of the shepherd in the dark place is the one thing that changes what the dark place means. The valley is still the valley, and the shepherd is still the shepherd, and the shepherd holds the path forward. Even in the valley, the shepherd never leaves the path ahead. If rest like this is what the soul needs, the kind that comes from the Psalms, from the shepherd, from the God who watches and holds and leads, this is a place worth returning to. The invitation is always open. The Psalms will always be here. There is another psalm that adds an essential piece to the picture of the night. Psalm 121 speaks of a keeper, a watcher, one who guards the soul through every movement, the going out and the coming in, through the hours of sun and the long, still hours of darkness. And the crucial detail, the one that changes the entire geometry of what this dark and quiet hour means, is this: the keeper does not sleep. He does not grow drowsy. He does not shift his attention. He does not move in and out of alertness the way human beings inevitably must. The one who watches over this soul is fully, completely, and unwaveringly awake through every hour that the human body rests. Every single one. He who watches over the soul does not sleep, and so the soul resting here can. This is the theological ground for what the body is already doing. A watch does not require two alert people at the same time. If the keeper is fully awake, genuinely, permanently, completely awake, then the one being kept is free to release the watch entirely. The eyes can close. The attention can let go of everything it has been tracking, because the tracking belongs to the one who does not tire of it and never needs relief from it. The night belongs to God in a way that it does not belong to fear. The darkness holds nothing that the keeper of this soul does not already see, does not already hold, does not already know how to carry. The soul resting here is not unguarded in this dark. It is specifically, deliberately, completely watched over by the one who never once closes his eyes. Psalm 56 was written from inside fear. The writer was afraid. He said so without apology or pretense, without the language of someone who has already arrived at peace and is speaking from the comfortable position of having come through the other side of something difficult. He was in the middle of the fear, and he wrote from inside the middle of it, when I am afraid. And then, without denying what the first half of the sentence said, without pretending the fear had already been resolved, or that the resolution was just around the corner, he wrote the next thing: I will put my trust in you. The movement between those two halves of the sentence is among the most important movements in all of Scripture. It does not say, when I am no longer afraid, I will trust. It says, fear is present, and trust is the deliberate response the soul makes, while the fear is still very much there. Trust is not manufactured from the absence of fear. Trust is the decision of a soul that knows enough about God to turn toward Him, while the fear is still real and still present. When I am afraid, I will trust. And trust is already available to the soul that turns toward it. The same psalmist wrote something else that belongs to the darkness of this hour. God has kept count. Every restless turning in the night, every moment the body shifted in the dark because the mind could not find stillness, every tear released in the quiet or pressed behind the eyes until the pressing itself became its own kind of weight, every prayer that was too exhausted to come out as anything but breath. The psalmist writes that God keeps the tears as something precious enough to preserve, something worth collecting and holding. Not one restless moment has gone unregistered. Not 1 hour of lying awake has been invisible to the one who watches. The keeper who does not sleep has noted every single tossing, every one, and every weight that came to the surface of the day was seen. Every prayer too tired to finish was heard, not because of how it sounded, but because of who was listening, and because the one who was listening has never once turned away from the voice of the one who belongs to him. Every tear, every restless turning in the night, God has noted it all, and it matters to him. Psalm 91 opens into protection that builds layer upon careful layer. The opening image is shadow, not the shadow of uncertainty or threat. The shadow cast by something immense and near, something so present and so large that its shadow extends all the way to the ground and falls completely over the soul resting beneath it. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High rests under the shadow of the Almighty. A shadow requires proximity. For the shadow of something to fall across a person, the thing casting the shadow must be very close. And Psalm 91 is saying quietly and precisely that the God who is the Most High, the Almighty, is near enough to cast his shadow over the soul that has made him its dwelling. The shadow is not just protection. The shadow is evidence. Evidence that the source of the shadow is right there, that close, hovering above, present. Under the shadow of the Almighty, the tired soul finds that the nearness itself is the shelter. And then the psalm builds further. My refuge and my fortress, my God, in whom I trust. A refuge is where the soul goes when it needs cover, and a fortress is what surrounds the soul when it has arrived inside. The soul inside the fortress did not build the walls. It did not lay the foundation, or supervise the construction, or choose the materials. It simply arrived and found the fortress standing solid, complete, adequate for everything the night might hold. The fortress stands whether the soul inside it is confident or afraid. It stands in every kind of night, the nights that feel manageable and the nights that feel very long. Its standing does not depend on the adequacy of the person sheltering within it. It depends on who built it and what it was built with, and those things have never changed and will not change. The soul resting here is inside that fortress tonight. And then Psalm 91 reaches for the image that has carried the faithful across the longest span of time. Under the feathers of God's care, the soul is covered. The image is a bird above its young warmth descending from above. Protection extended deliberately. The small and vulnerable things underneath entirely enclosed within the covering that has been provided from above. The young do not hold the covering in place. They do not manufacture the warmth or maintain the shelter. They receive it from the one above, who is larger and stronger and aware of everything the young ones cannot yet see. The covering comes from outside them and holds from above. All they must do is stay underneath it. The soul resting here is that small. The covering is that generous. There is nothing to do in this position except remain. To stop moving outward beyond what the shelter holds. To stay in the place where the covering reaches. And to receive, without effort, the warmth that has already been extended from above. Psalm 46 begins with a claim that carries the full weight of what it promises. God is a refuge and a strength, a very present help. The word present is where the promise lands most specifically. A very present help, not a distant help that must be summoned and waited for. Not a help that is real in principle, but slow to arrive in practice. A very present help, present in the moment of need, present in the shelter, present in the quiet dark room where a soul has come to rest. And within the city of God that the psalm describes, there is a river whose streams make the place where God dwells glad, filling it, sustaining it, running steady and consistent through the center of it. Water that does not rush or demand. Water that simply flows, faithful and continuous through the place that God occupies. The city of God is glad because the river runs through it. The soul that has made God its dwelling finds the same gladness, quiet, steady, consistent, running through its center. And then Psalm 46 gives the command that holds all of it together. Be still and know that He is God. The command does not come from a quiet external context. Psalm 46 describes a world in motion around the one who is told to be still, nations, kingdoms, the sound of a world deeply unsettled. And into that context, from inside that motion, the command comes from the one who controls all of it. Be still. The knowledge that God is God, that He holds what needs holding, controls what needs controlling, carries what needs carrying, is what makes the stillness possible. The soul that knows who God is can stop straining. Straining has been the soul's effort to hold what only God can hold. And the command releases the soul from that effort entirely. Be still and know. The soul that knows can rest in what it knows. Psalm 27 holds one of the most honest longings in all of the Psalms. The writer came to a place of knowing exactly what he most wanted, and the thing he wanted was precise. One thing I have desired of the Lord, to dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze on the beauty of the Lord. One thing, not a list, not circumstances improved, not a plan for the future, nearness, the desire for proximity to God, to be in His presence, to stay close, to look at Him. The soul's deepest orientation, when it is honest about itself, is not toward the resolution of its circumstances. It is toward its source, toward the one who made it and knows it and holds it. And the rest that is deepest is the rest of nearness, the rest of being in the presence of the one the soul was made to be near. The deepest need is nearness, and nearness is available. And the same psalm says that in the day of trouble, God conceals the soul in His shelter. He hides the one who belongs to Him in the cover of His dwelling, high on a rock. The shelter was not assembled in response to the trouble. It was already there. The soul arrives at the difficulty and finds, already standing, already solid, a place of hiding that was built before the trouble arrived. The soul does not build the shelter in the moment of need. It finds it, already here, already complete. And the beauty that the soul most desires, the beauty of God, is found inside the hiding place. The place of shelter and the place of longing are the same place. The soul that enters the shelter finds itself gazing on what it most wanted to see. The Psalms now open into the territory of mercy. Psalm 103 begins by calling the soul to remember, not to worry, not to plan or anticipate or organize, to remember. And the remembering is specific. What has God already done? What has already been given repeatedly and faithfully across the whole length of the life of the soul that belongs to Him? He forgives. He heals. He redeems the life from the place of destruction. He crowns with steadfast love and compassion. He satisfies with good things so that the soul is renewed like the eagle lifted, fresh, restored from the inside. These are not promises about what God might eventually do. They are testimonies about what He has already been doing. And the soul resting here has been inside that goodness for its entire life. even in the seasons when the goodness was not clearly visible from the inside of what was being experienced. And then Psalm 103 moves to its most tender image. As a father knows the frailty of a child and holds it with understanding, so God knows the frailty of the soul resting here. He knows that this soul is made of dust, not in a dismissive way, with the knowledge of someone who loves the material they are working with. The way a careful craftsman knows the particular qualities of what they are shaping. God knows the composition of this soul, the places that are strong, the places that are thin, the places that have been under pressure for a long time and have begun to show the marks of the holding. And from that knowing, compassion flows. The father knowledge produces father tenderness. The knowing does not lead to disappointment or to correction or to a demand for something better. It leads to holding gently, carefully, the way a father holds a child who has given everything it had and is now simply spent. As a father knows the weakness of a child and holds it gently, so God holds the frailty of the soul here. The steadfast love that Psalm 103 describes has an ancient name heased, a covenant word, the love that was settled before it was needed, the care that does not leave when the conditions become difficult, the faithfulness that is bound not by the worthiness of the one receiving it, but by the nature of the one giving it. From everlasting to everlasting, that love covers every soul that belongs to God. The night passing right now is inside that everlasting care. Every night before this one was inside it. Every night that follows will be inside it too. And the soul resting here has never been outside it. Not for a single hour, not for a single moment, not even in the moments when it felt the furthest away from anything that felt like love. From everlasting to everlasting, the steadfast love holds. Psalm 139 reaches into an intimacy that few other passages in all of Scripture approach. God has searched this soul. He has known it fully, completely, without remainder, without any part of it remaining hidden or unexamined or outside the reach of his knowledge. He knows the sitting down and the rising up. He knows the thoughts before they have fully arrived in the mind from a distance, while they are still forming, while the soul itself has not yet fully assembled them. God already knows them. He is acquainted with every path this person has taken, every choice, every place arrived at, every hour of lying down in the dark. And the knowing is not neutral. It is not the knowing of a record or a database. It is the knowing of one who has been paying sustained, attentive, caring attention to this particular soul for the whole of its existence. The kind of knowing that comes from genuine interest, genuine investment, something very close to love because it is love. Before a single word forms on the tongue, God already knows it, and he remains present, close, entirely unchanged by what he knows. The psalm then addresses the darkness with clarity and without hesitation. Even if the soul said, "Let the darkness cover me," even then, to God, the night shines like the day. Darkness and light are the same to him. There is no depth of night that makes the person inside it invisible to God. There is no hour passes outside his awareness. There is no quiet and unhurried dark room that is genuinely dark to the one who watches. The soul lying here is entirely visible, not because of the low light of the fire, because of who is watching, and the one watching sees with perfect clarity regardless of what the hour looks like to human eyes. Even in the dark, there is no darkness to God. The soul lying still is seen, and he is not far. God formed this person before their first day had begun, in a hidden and enclosed place, in a place of complete darkness. God was already there, already working, already attentive, already knowing the shape and nature and full trajectory of the person being formed, knitting together with intention and care the specific person who would one day lie here in this particular room on this particular night. And the thoughts God has toward this soul are precious, more numerous, the psalmist says, than the grains of sand. The soul that tries to count them begins and cannot finish. The counting runs out before the thoughts do. And when the counting finally stops, God is still there, still present, still thinking, still holding this person in the full weight of his attention and his care. Psalm 34 adds the dimension of God's nearness in language that is direct and specific. God is near to the brokenhearted. He is close to those whose spirit has been pressed thin. The language is positional. It tells where God is relative to a particular kind of person. And the person it describes is not the strong or the confident or the one who has everything well arranged. It is the brokenhearted, the one whose spirit has been under pressure, the one who has been carrying something that has bent them. And toward those people specifically, God is near. The nearness is a fact. It does not depend on how near God feels in a given moment. It does not require an emotional experience as confirmation. It does not wait for the person to feel better before it becomes true. God is near to the brokenhearted, close to the one whose spirit has been pressed thin tonight. Psalm 116 is a testimony with a particular shape that the tired soul can hold. The psalmist loved God because God had bent his ear, had turned toward the voice of the person who was calling from a place of genuine distress, and had listened. The cry went up from a real place, from a real weight, and God leaned toward it. The hearing was real. The response followed. And then the psalmist turned to his own soul and gave it the word it needed most. Return to your rest. O my soul, the Lord has been good to you. The word is return, not arrive, not achieve. Return. The soul is being called back to a place it belongs, the place of rest that is available to the soul that knows God has been good to it. The goodness has already been given. The hearing has already happened. The response has already come. And the soul, knowing all of this, can stop straining forward and return to the rest that was always there. Return to your rest. The Lord has dealt bountifully with you. Psalm 37 speaks to the soul that is still holding the direction it was supposed to release. Commit your way to the Lord. Trust in Him and let Him act. Be still before Him. Wait patiently. These four movements together describe the posture of a soul that has genuinely done what they say. The commitment is real. way forward is given, actually released, not merely offered while still held tightly behind the back. And trust follows from the genuine commitment, and stillness follows from the trust, and patient waiting follows from the stillness, not the waiting of someone tense and monitoring every moment, but the waiting of someone who has placed the outcome in the hands of another and is at rest inside that placement. The soul that has committed its way to God has opened its hands. What was held too tightly, the direction, the need to know, the need to ensure the outcome, all of it has been released to the one who already knows the end from the beginning. Commit the way to God, and what was tight in the chest begins, slowly, to loosen. And the steps of the one who rests in God are ordered. They are held in the hands of the one who sees the whole path. The soul does not need to know what step comes after this one. The shepherd knows. The keeper knows. God holds the step that comes after this present moment as surely as he holds this present moment. The whole of the path is in the same hands. There is nothing to plan in this hour. The planning has been given over to the one who knows everything that the planning was anxious about. The steps of the one who rests in God are already ordered. There is nothing left to plan. Psalm 55 adds a single freeing truth. Cast the burden onto the Lord, and he will sustain the one who casts it. The burden does not disappear, but it is transferred. The weight that has been real, the weight the hands have been holding, the weight the chest has been carrying, the weight that made the lying down feel complicated even after the body was already horizontal. That weight can be given to someone who does not tire under it. Given actually, released, the hands opened, and the weight passed into other hands. And from the moment of the casting, sustaining begins. Not from the moment the person has recovered their strength. From the moment the burden is cast. The sustaining is what God provides in the space where the effort used to be. Cast the burden onto the Lord, and he sustains what he receives. Psalm 16 speaks quietly about what the night contains. Even in the night, God gives counsel to the soul that is listening. The long, still, dark hours that can feel empty or too long or wasted. Those hours are a place where God is present. The soul that is turned toward him in the quiet receives something in those hours. Not loudly, not dramatically. In the quiet way that the night gives its gifts when the soul has stopped competing with the silence. And God is at the right hand, steady, close. The soul resting here is not alone on either side. The keeper is there, positionally present, immovable, holding the ground on the right side of the soul throughout every hour. And because God is at the right hand, the soul does not shake. Even in the night, God gives counsel to the soul that is listening. He is steady at the right hand. Psalm 63 describes what the long hours of the night actually contain for the soul that is turned toward God. The psalmist lay on the bed through the watches of the night, the long, slow, deepening hours of lying awake. And in those hours, he meditated on God. He thought on what God had been. He called to memory the help that had come before, the faithfulness of a presence that had never abandoned the path, even when the path was hard. He remembered, and the night inside those meditations became something different. The watches were no longer empty. The long hours were no longer lost. They were filled with the memory of what God had done, with the presence of the one who was equally awake in them, with the quiet working of a soul that had turned toward its source and found it near. The night is long enough for God to fill. That is what Psalm 63 proves from the inside of a sleepless night. Through the watches of the night, the soul that meditates on God is already held. Psalm 57 carries a story embedded within its image. The writer was in a cave. The situation outside was dangerous and the outcome uncertain. And from inside that enclosed, low, narrow space, from inside the smallness of the hiding place, the writer did not cry toward the walls. He cried upward, toward mercy, toward God. And what came in response, from inside the cave and the uncertainty, was the shadow of God's wings, shelter extending from above, covering the place where the writer waited. The cave walls held what they could hold, and the covering above held what the walls alone could not. And inside that combination, the low human hiding and the high divine covering, the writer's heart became steadfast, fixed, settled, not because the situation outside the cave had changed, because the covering above had not shifted. And a covered heart, even inside a cave, even inside genuine uncertainty, can become fixed, steadfast and fixed, the heart that has found the covering above the storm. Psalm 84 holds a small image with very large comfort embedded in it. Even the sparrow finds a home near the altar of God. The swallow finds a nest where she may lay her young, a place to belong, a resting place so close to the dwelling of God that the boundary between the small creature's home and the presence of God is almost indistinct. The sparrow is not remarkable. It is ordinary. It has no particular claim to a place near the altar, but it found that place and it settled there. And in the settling, it found what the presence of God has always offered to those who simply come and stay: a home, a nest, a belonging. The tired soul is given this same picture tonight: a place to nest near the presence of God, a belonging that costs nothing to maintain, a rest so close to the source of all life that the nearness itself becomes the rest. Even the sparrow finds a home near the altar, and the tired soul finds the same. Psalm 131 holds the quietest image in the entire Psalter. The psalmist describes his soul, the inner life of the person, the part that reaches and strains and demands and plans, as a weaned child resting with its mother. A weaned child has stopped straining. The particular urgency that characterized the early relationship, the reaching and demanding, and the specific hunger that drives young creatures toward what they need, that urgency has quieted. The child is no longer at the breast, but the child is still with the mother, close, settled, not demanding anything beyond nearness itself. The child rests in the fact of the mother's presence. The mother is there, and that is enough. The child is content, not with every circumstance of its life, not with every condition of its world, but with the profound simplicity of being near the one who is the source of provision and warmth and care, the soul that has arrived at at this point in the night, the soul that has been carried through the Psalms and has run out of words and has stopped planning and urgently requesting, that soul is like the weaned child, simply near, simply still, resting in the nearness of the one who holds it, like a child who has finally stopped straining, quiet, settled, simply near. Psalm 145 builds the portrait of God's faithfulness through a catalog of what He is. The Lord is faithful in all His words. He is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, rich in steadfast love. He is good to all, and His mercy reaches over everything He has made. He is near to all who call on Him. And the line that speaks most directly to the soul that has been unsteady in the dark: the Lord upholds all who are falling. The upheld in this psalm are not the strong or the steady. They are the ones in the process of losing their footing, the ones whose hold on steadiness has grown uncertain, whose strength has moved closer to empty than comfortable. And God's hand moves toward them before the falling has completed, before the slip becomes a fall. The hand is already reaching while the footing is still being lost. The falling one does not need to have held on until God arrived. God arrives before the falling is finished. He upholds all who are falling. His hand reaches before the person knows they are slipping. Psalm 18 opens with a cascade of names that multiply because any single one of them falls short of what God actually is. The Lord is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my shield, my stronghold. Each name reaches into a different dimension of the same reality. The rock for the soul that needs solid ground, the fortress for the soul that needs something surrounding it, the deliverer for the soul that has felt caught, the shield for the soul that has absorbed more than it anticipated, the stronghold for the soul that needs high ground when everything around it is low. Every name in the cascade answers something. Every name reaches into a corner of the human experience and says, "For this, I am your God." The soul listening tonight has a need somewhere in that list, and the list covers it. Rock, fortress, deliverer, shield. The names keep building because one word is never enough for who God is. Psalm 77 describes a sleepless night that the writer knew from the inside. The spirit was troubled. The hand stretched out in the night and did not release. Sleep would not come. And in that long, searching, wide-awake dark, the writer did not manufacture peace from within himself. He began to remember, to call to mind the deeds of the Lord, to meditate on the works of God's hands, to go back through what God had done before, not to build a logical argument from the evidence, not to produce certainty, simply to hold in the dark the memory of what was true. The memory of what God has done is solid in the same dark, where everything else is uncertain. What God has been, He is. What He has done before, He remains capable of doing. The faithfulness the psalmist was remembering in the sleepless night is the same faithfulness that holds the soul resting here in this quiet hour, in the night of sleeplessness. The soul that begins to remember what God has done finds something solid to hold. The Psalms have now moved through much of what they carried into this hour. The room is still. The fire is still low. The warmth is consistent and quiet, and the Psalms are still present in the space, patient and ancient and faithful, carrying the same truth they have always carried toward whoever has come tonight to hold it. Psalm 62 returns to where the narration began. My soul finds rest in God alone. The words are the same as when the narration first held them, but the soul that holds them now has traveled through something, through the shepherd and the still waters, through the shadow and the feathers, through the mercy and the knowing, through the waiting and the remembering and the nomming. The soul has moved through 20 ancient songs, and at the far end of the moving, the same truth is standing. God alone, rock and fortress and resting place. The rest is found in God, not in the resolution of the night, not in the achievement of a particular feeling, not in the completion of anything that is still unfinished. In God, who is here, who has been here through every scene the Psalms have moved through. My soul finds rest in God alone. The night does not require management from here. It simply continues, and God continues with it, aware of every moment of it, present in every corner of it, holding everything the darkness contains. And into that knowing, the command settles once more into the room. Be still and know that He is God. The room is very quiet now. The fire gives its warmth in the low, consistent way it has been giving it since the narration began. The air in the room is still. The sounds around the edges of the night are soft, the kind of sounds that hold the silence rather than interrupt it. And the soul that has been resting through this narration has traveled through something real, not a set of instructions, not a program for achieving a particular inner state, a set of ancient testimonies, the recorded experience of many souls who walked into their most difficult nights and found God already there, already faithful, already holding what the night contained, already waiting in the place the soul had not yet arrived at. 20 ancient songs, the shepherd, the shadow, the feathers, the fortress and the river, the mercy and the heast, the Father who knows the dust and holds it gently, the God who searches and knows before a word forms, the keeper who does not sleep, the broken-hearted soul who is specifically the one God draws near to, the weaned child, the sparrow's nest, the cascade of names, the memory of faithfulness in the dark. The soul has not arrived at a new place. It has arrived at the truest place it has ever known. Psalm 4 gives its word again, softly, like something said at the end of a long day by someone who has believed it through many long days. In peace, I will lie down and sleep, for God alone makes this dwelling safe. The body is already lying down. The peace is not something the soul manufactured in order to be able to lie down. The peace is the ground beneath the act. God alone makes this dwelling safe. The safety is structural, belonging to the God who built it, maintained by the one who holds it, standing through every kind of night. The gladness that God places in the heart is quieter than abundance. It does not need noise or celebration or the completion of anything. It is simply present, underneath the weariness, beneath the questions, beneath the weight of the day that has now passed. A quiet and steady gladness that does not run out when the night grows long. In peace, I will lie down, for God alone makes this safe. The shepherd is still ahead. The path from this moment forward is in hands that know it entirely, that have always known it, that hold every step of it as clearly as they hold this present still moment. The soul resting here does not need to see the path. The shepherd sees it, and the next step, the only step available in this hour, is simply to rest in the one who leads. He leads the tired soul to quiet waters, and the waters are very quiet now. Psalm 121 returns, softer than it was before. One who keeps watch over this soul does not sleep. This entire night, every still and quiet hour of it, every long moment between the hours, is completely, consistently covered. There is no minute of it that the keeper does not see. There is no corner of the dark too far for his attention. There is no moment so late that his watching has grown less deliberate, because the keeper is awake, fully, completely, permanently awake. The one who is held here can let go of the last of what has been held. The watching belongs to God. The resting belongs to the soul. And both are happening right now at the same time. He who keeps watch does not sleep, so the one who is held here can rest fully. The words of the Psalms are still present in the room. They do not end when the speaking softens. They do not conclude when the narration grows quieter and the spaces between sentences grow wider. They continue patient and ancient and faithful, always carrying the truth toward whoever comes to hold it. The truth that God is near. The truth that God watches. The truth that God shelters and guides and knows and sustains. Psalm 62 settles into the room for the last time. My soul finds rest in God alone. There is a rock beneath this moment. There was a rock beneath every moment this narration moved through. Solid, immovable, the kind of ground that holds whether the night is quiet and simple or whether it is long and uncertain. The rock has not shifted. Not once through all the hours the soul has ever lived inside. The keeper is still awake. The shepherd is ahead on the path. The God of 20 Psalms holds everything this room contains, including the soul that is resting here, that has rested here, that is finding its rest in God alone. And the soul can sleep. The fire is low. The room is still. Be still and know that He is God. The shepherd knows exactly where this soul has settled. The path forward, every step of it, every uncertain place within it, every place where the light is thin, is already held in His hands. The one who is resting here is not lost, not unguarded, not unknown. The shepherd is near. The keeper is awake. The God of 20 Psalms holds. The Psalms will be here when morning comes. They will be here the next night, and the night after that. 20 ancient songs, still faithful, still carrying their truth toward whoever comes to hold them. The soul that rested here tonight rested in something that does not end with the narration. In peace, I will lie down and sleep, for God alone makes this dwelling safe. The keeper is awake. The shepherd is near. And the soul that has found its rest in God alone has found the only resting place that holds through the night, through the waking, and through everything that follows. Be still. Rest. God is here.